Chapter 1171. Now that is our boss. Lin Che said to Dong Zi, when you have the time, go find out what's going on with Su Wan. Dong Zi replied, yes, miss. Yu Minmin heard this and asked, why? Are you interested in her? I want to know if she's lying to me or not. If she is, I won't let her off. But she looks rather pitiful. Yes. Lin Che sighed. I feel that what she said made sense. I was definitely like this back then. I would go to every tryout, but I never held any hopes. When I got selected, I was especially happy. It felt like a gift from heaven fell into my lap. Yu Minmin laughed and asked, is that so? Were you that sad back then? I could never tell. You only had eyes on those rich celebrities. Of course, you never took notice of me. That's because you didn't have money. I have a family to feed, you know. The two of them talked about the past and laughed at each other for a long time. It felt as if it happened in another generation. It was so close yet so far away. Alright, I still have something to do. I have to go to the appointment first. Oh, are you going to meet those hackers? Yes. Go ahead. A few young people already arrived at the cafe. Qin Hao was also already waiting outside. He kept looking in from the outside. They looked grave and solemn. They looked around and discussed what to do later. KG was actually not here yet. With KG not around, they were not very confident. But at this moment, they saw a man in a suit and leather shoes. He looked like a very successful person with high status. He stood in front of them, smiled, and asked, which one of you is KG? They immediately stood up. So, it was this man. You are the one who blocked our server? Crooked Neck asked. Qin Hao smiled. The one who wants to meet you is not me. What? Just then, Lin Che appeared from behind. Hello everyone. It was really tough tracking you down. Looking at Lin Che walk towards them, they also smiled. They were all stunned. This. Wasn't this Lin Che? She looked very much like Lin Che, but they were worried that she was not Lin Che. Could there be someone who looked exactly like her? Lin Che smiled and asked, are you all from the studio? You guys look really young. You must not be very old. Is the studio an amateur studio? Lin Che asked them immediately, but they were still too shocked to respond. After a split second, Crooked Neck suddenly coughed and looked at her. He asked, you are your Lin Che, right? Lin Che beamed, yes. The group was more stunned. They looked at each other and did not know what to say. Lin Che said, I am indeed Lin Che, but now, I am someone who wants to work with you guys. Crooked Neck quickly stepped forward and shook hands with Lin Che. Oh my, Lin Che, I love you. I used to have a desktop wallpaper of you. Lin Che looked at his warm gesture and laughed dryly. Someone behind quickly pulled Crooked Neck back. Hey, where is the coolness we talked about? Just because you see a star, you immediately go up to her. But they were all a bunch of university students and have not met many people, much less a top-notch celebrity. But this is Lin Che. Just then, from behind. We are not interested. KG finally arrived. He stood behind, looked in Lin Che's direction and said, we only work independently in our own studio. We don't wish to work with anyone else. Lin Che looked at him in surprise. Seeing how the others reacted to him, she immediately deduced that he was KG. She walked towards him. KG, even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for others. There's no doubt that you're a talented hacker. You probably don't need to work with anyone. And you could still have a profitable life, but it wasn't easy for them to step into this industry and go through winds of hell for you. Suffering like this, is it really a good thing? KG's eyebrow twitched. Money is not the most important to us. Lin Che said, indeed, but they clearly have their own ambitions. They can do more. They can do better things. But because you don't want to, they have to give up. Is that acceptable? KG looked at her. You know nothing. Lin Che laughed. I don't, but I also had a tough upbringing. I know that nobody wants an ordinary life. It's the same for them. As for you, you rejected me without even hearing what I have to say. You were so ready to give up. Do you know that your once bitten twice shy attitude will only make you lose out on countless opportunities? KG's face hardened more as he stared at Lin Che. After a long time, he finally sat down. Fine, tell me, what would you like to work on with me? Lin Che smiled and sat down. It's like this. We plan to develop a game. The investor is a businessman from M Nation. We will continue working with them in a collaboration. The name of the game can be decided by the studio, but it has to be under Li Mingyu's company's brand. They have now registered it in C Nation under the name of Kaisheng, so the game we are making also has to be under the Kaisheng Group brand. For a start, I think that the game can be made into two types, mobile and platform. Of course, this still requires further discussion. Mobile games are very popular now, but it also has to be quick-paced. I believe your style is very suitable. However, platform games are a little more troublesome. I'm not sure if you guys are experienced in this area, but no matter what, I am very optimistic about your studio. I think that you guys have great creativity and that is why I want to team up with you. Team up. Team up to make a game. Although it was only a short pitch, everyone was already stunned. She did not want to buy their game nor their copyrights. Instead, she wanted them to develop games. Really? Lin Che said, I hope you guys can consider it. Whether it will work or not, we'll test things out. To be honest, you guys are also not afraid of failure. Don't tell me you're scared that I'd take advantage of you. There is nothing worth for me to rob from you guys. Once again, they were stunned by Lin Che's words. If other people said that, they would be offended. But Lin Che indeed had everything. A huge celebrity would earn quite a lot. Her reputation was on the line and she also had a company. As for them, they were still undergraduates. KG narrowed his eyes at Lin Che. She cocked her head to the side, fearlessly waiting for a response. After a while, KG finally said, all right. I'll consider it. Okay, this is our company's address. You can drop by any time. Chapter 1172 Director Gu changed my life. After Lin Che left, the group then began chatting enthusiastically. No way, was that really Lin Che? Am I dreaming? I think you're sick in the head more than dreaming. Really, I just watched her show yesterday and I'm seeing her in person today. Is this for real? Does she even want to work with us? This is exactly what I watched. What you think about in the day, you will continue thinking about in your dreams. But why does Lin Che want to work on games now? Don't celebrities dabble in extra stuff? Wow, Lin Che really looks great in real life. That face, that figure, and those eyes. Furthermore, she really does have great poise in person. She sure is a fiercely sexy woman. She's well groomed, composed, and doesn't come across as annoying at all. No wonder she's so popular. That's enough. Just then, KG spoke up. Don't celebrate too early. With his wet blanket words, everyone could only become silent. Hey, but I looked up that Kaisheng Group or something. Look, it's really by Li Mingyu. This guy is an M Nation businessman and he just came to C Nation. Apparently, he's very capable. Quick, take a look. He is super rich. It's a giant company. They never expected a tiny studio like theirs to be noticed by such a huge company. In an instant, the group continued being stunned in silence. Finally, KG stood up first and walked forward. We'll know when we see their company tomorrow. Whether it was real or not, all would be revealed once they went there. After Lin Che exited, she said to Qin Hao, Assistant Qin, thank you for specially coming down to help. Qin Hao quickly replied, Madam, you're too polite. This is my duty. Lin Che laughed and asked, how can that be? Furthermore, you're so capable. Hee. You totally don't have to be an assistant under Gu Jingze. You would excel in anything. Ever since knowing that this unobtrusive Qin Hao was a hacker, she was immediately filled with admiration for him. She no longer thought that he was simply a great bootlicker. Qin Hao laughed and said, following Director Gu is already my greatest honor. Nothing else really matters. Lin Che looked at him and asked, why didn't you think of becoming a hacker instead of following Gu Jingze? He said, I was still young at that time. Because I did some hacking, I hacked into and accessed the inside of a foreign mafia's top secret system. I wanted to sell it and earn lots of money but was tracked down by them. They took my entire family away and said that they would kill one member a day unless I kill myself first. I was really at my wit's end and even wanted to strap bombs to myself to perish with them. But Director Gu suddenly appeared at that time. He even brought an entourage with him. He said that he saw how I hacked and thought that I was dumb. I was angry and told him that he knew nothing. Besides having some money, he was nothing. However, I never expected him to say that my skills were not bad either. He said that with my talent, I had plenty of ways to earn money. I didn't have to steal anything. Sigh. Back then, I didn't believe him either. Later, Director Gu was the one who made that mafia branch disappear. Then, he brought his men and rescued my family. It was at that moment when I realized being a hacker meant nothing. I was indeed dumb because I thought that I was already the world's smartest person. Actually, there is always someone who is better than us. The ability to hack was just a skill. The ones who can really change the world are those who can channel their abilities into creating legitimate change, just like Director Gu. Qin Hao sighed and nodded while looking at Lin Che. Really, that doesn't sound like a big deal. Haha. At that time, Director Gu was only 8 years old. What, shouldn't he have mentioned his age earlier? Lin Che imagined an 8-year-old Gu Jingze bringing an entourage to find Qin Hao. Qin Hao said, after that, I joined the Gu Industries. However, I started from the lowest level all the way until 13 years ago. That was when I began being Director Gu's assistant. Lin Che looked at Qin Hao. You are great too, really. Qin Hao said, without Director Gu, I would have probably died. Now, I finally realize that reaping what you sow through sheer hard work is far more satisfying than stealing or using underhanded means. Thus, meeting Director Gu was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Lin Che looked at him and thought about herself. Yes, meeting Gu Jingze was also the most fortunate thing to ever happen in her life. At night, Lin Che and Gu Jingze promised to have a good meal outside with the kids. It was a little troublesome to bring the kids out, but it was a joyous feeling when the family went out to eat. Gu Jingze carried the younger one while the elder one walked beside him. The four of them had a private room and ordered food. The younger one slept while the older one ate quietly. Lin Che smiled and said, I went over with Qin Hao today and he kept KG and the rest in check. Oh my, Qin Hao is really a capable person. Is that so? You have such a good hacker beside you and you're not making good use of him. Why did you make him an assistant instead? I only hired him because I liked his logical thinking. Huh. Gu Jingze looked at her and said, to be able to code well, remember all kinds of sequences, thinking while simultaneously writing code at the same time, and quickly infiltrating many systems show that he is very logical, has a good memory, and coordination. That was why I thought he was a talented person and could be put to good use. Lin Che wanted to call him out on his bullshit, but when she thought about how he was only 8 years old when he wanted to hire Qin Hao, she did not dare to say that. She pouted and said, but I still think it's a pity. Furthermore, this kind of person picks things up fast. Isn't he also doing fine now? He can use these skills whenever he wants to. There are enough coders in the company already, but there are not enough coordinators for these coders. For him to excel in everything he does shows that I didn't pick the wrong person. That is the exact position he should be in. Do you understand? Lin Che rolled her eyes and said, fine. Gu Jingze said, and he can also teach Nianian. Gu Xinian immediately lifted his head. Okay. Lin Che looked at him. You're still young. Why do you want to learn that? Concentrate on going to kindergarten. Gu Xinian said, I am. It won't disrupt school. Gu Jingze said, yes. Don't go to your uncle so often and you'll have the time to learn to code. Lin Che exclaimed, what? You're still going to Black Eagles? Gu Xinian said, all right, I still have homework to do. Dad, quickly finish eating. Lin Che glared at Gu Xinian. He was already gobbling down his food without looking up. Gu Jingze smiled and shook his head. When they were outside, Lin Che then pulled Gu Jingze aside and asked, why did he go look for Black Eagle? Chapter 1173 Working with such a big company. Gu Jingze replied, he was probably just checking out what's fun at Black Eagles. Please, there is nothing fun at Black Eagles. Of course, there is. Like what? Some equipment that can't be bought in the country. Such as eavesdropping equipment, firearm equipment, and heavy machine guns. Lin Che said, no, no. Those are too dangerous. Absolutely not. Gu Jingze casually draped his arm over Lin Che's shoulders. If he wants to, you can't stop him either. Besides, it's also better if he understands it earlier. Otherwise, if he doesn't know how to use them in the future, it will be more dangerous. You guys. Give in to Nianian too much. At Kaisheng Group. Lin Che had scheduled to meet KG's group here for a tour, so she arrived earlier. Chen Lanshan was still unaware of what was going on. Hearing that Lin Che was here, she quickly went to take a look. Miss Lin, you're here today because… Oh, Manager Chen, I'm bringing some people from the studio to take a look around here. What studio? Chen Lanshan asked with a confused face. Lin Che said, that small gaming studio from the last time. What, you found them? Chen Lanshan was puzzled. She had been trying to find them over the past few days, but she heard that this studio probably did not want to be found. Thus, she thought that they deliberately hid all forms of contact. But Lin Che actually managed to find them. Lin Che nodded and said, make the arrangements. They will be coming over today and we can discuss the collaboration properly. Chen Lanshan looked deeply at Lin Che. She was doubtful, but still quickly carried out her job. Not long after, the guests arrived. The few undergraduates looked at Kaisheng Group and it was indeed different from a small company. They had worked part-time and discussed collaborating with small companies before. These companies only needed to rent a floor of an office building. But for Kaisheng Group, the entire building belonged to them. They whistled and said, looks like it's really a huge company. Heh, the lady at the front desk is so gorgeous. Alright, are you here to look at the front desk or other things? Exactly. Nobody is as pretty as Lin Che anyway. They talked as they entered the building. Only KG remained silent. He only scanned across the outside and inside of the company. Upstairs, Chen Lanshan led them. Seeing that they seemed to be just a bunch of students, she felt that it was ridiculous. Getting some students to create the games was Lin Che crazy. But Lin Che did not feel that way at all. She let them sit down before saying, I already booked this whole floor for the office. Director Li specially set it aside for me. He has prepared to invest 2 billion yuan in advance. If the results are good, he will invest more, but the important thing is you guys. Are you guys keen on collaborating with us? 2 billion yuan to invest in games. Their little game only took less than 100,000 yuan. 2 billion, how big was this game going to be? KG was not one to believe words at face value, so his expression did not change. He only looked at Lin Che and said, we can keep the studio's name, right? Lin Che nodded. Of course, when we sign the contract, it'll be like this. Your studio will belong to Kaisheng Group. I'm the developer and the producer is Genesis. All the copyrights belong to both of us. If either of us doesn't consent, we can't sell anything. The profits will be divided accordingly. As we will definitely pull in more sponsors than you guys, we will have a bigger share, but your share will already be more than enough. I believe you guys are able to calculate better than me. With regard to credibility, there must be mutual respect. I respect you guys and I hope you guys will respect me. I am a public figure, so it's unlikely that I would cheat anyone. If we get into a lawsuit, I'd be in more trouble than you guys. Thus, we always have a reasonable agreement and make it official with the presence of a lawyer. As for everything else, you can see for yourselves. The group stared dumbfounded. They did not expect such a huge offer to fall into their laps. To come here and set up a studio, work with such a huge company, and work with a huge celebrity like Lin Che. Was it really possible? KG asked, you guys want to work with us just based on one little game? Lin Che said, yes. You're only university students and you lack the resources, but you could develop such a good game. If given sufficient resources, you guys could definitely do much more. However, this is only a hypothesis. Thus, if you want to work with us, you must also show us what you got. Chen Lanshan heard her finally say this and quickly chimed in, that's right. Kaisheng Group is willing to provide the funding, but we also require the other party to have real skills. Otherwise, we will not be led by the nose if you guys do nothing. As for the end product, I hope you can give me a prototype first. If Director Lee is satisfied with it, you can continue working on it. KG looked at Chen Lanshan's proud demeanor. Distrust was written all over her face. He then scoffed coldly, finding it funny. However, the general distrust that such traditional companies have against university students was common. He was not good at dealing with people, but it was also attributed to his pride. Hearing her say that, he stood up and replied, "Okay. We will have the prototype ready by next month." Chen Lanshan scoffed. "Well then, I look forward to it too." Lin Che turned to look at Chen Lanshan but did not say anything. Seeing that KG's group decided to leave, she followed them. "KG," she called out and walked towards him. "Manager Chen is not good with technology, but she is a veteran of public relations. Collaborations are like that. She doesn't think highly of you also because you guys indeed lack experience, but I know that if you can produce results, she will not discredit you. But whether or not it will convince her entirely, it will have to depend on you guys." KG said, "What game do you want us to make? We can talk about it in detail." "Okay, take this document first. If you have any questions, we can slowly talk about them over the next few days." She already had her idea printed and kept in a file when she was at home. Of course, Gu Jingze also helped her organize it because she was completely a newbie and did not really know how to use these things. On the other hand, Gu Jingze only took half an hour to organize her scattered ideas neatly. The group spent a few days looking through Lin Che's ideas, talking to her over the phone and meeting in person for discussions. KG initially thought that Lin Che was only doing it for fun. He did not expect Lin Che's ideas to coincide with his. Lin Che wanted to create a player versus player game. She wanted a game with more co-op battles and players could be matched directly into teams. Especially for the mobile game, players would be automatically matched to a team to reduce wasted time. People could play whenever they wanted to. The story mode was much more complicated, but could also be co-op. At the same time, players could also recruit other players online or play with their friends. Chapter 1174 I absolutely believe in your ability. The battle mode would be much more complicated. There were high requirements for balance and design. This was also a major test for the game developers. From the start, they were prepared to do it half-heartedly, but now, they planned to do it properly. Within a month, they really managed to produce a prototype. Back at Kaisheng Group, Lin Che arrived first and heard some people talking from behind. "Manager Chen, they are really coming today. I heard that they are just a bunch of students. Lin Che is really toying with us." "Exactly. No matter how good they would never pass on Director Lee's side. He's not a fool. Why would he allow some kids to toy with something worth billions? That's not how you play with women. Just because Lin Che is good-looking doesn't mean that she can waste money like that." Everyone was still puzzled. If Li Mingyu only invested because he wanted to chase a girl, why have they never seen those two interact with each other at all? Lin Che only came and left when she had to. She didn't even bother to go up and find Li Mingyu. Meanwhile, Li Mingyu also did not care about this matter at all. Or was it all just in the heat of the moment, and Li Mingyu later found someone new? They all knew that Li Mingyu was a playboy and he had an endless line of women. But they felt that they were being played out too much. Did he get this woman to especially drag them down? Lin Che listened outside and rolled her eyes. Did she really look like she would be a sugar baby? How did she become Li Mingyu's sugar baby, to be specific? Not by a single hair. However, Lin Che still did not go in. She went out and saw that the university students were here. She smiled and said, "It's been hard on all of you recently." They indeed rushed their work before coming here. They skipped many classes and were definitely going to suffer this semester. But they didn't care either. They devoted themselves to this game and did not want to leave any room for error. In the office, Chen Lanshan looked at the prototype and could not tell if it was good or not. But she was indeed amazed. Was this the standard of some average university students? She looked at the group and felt confused. Was this the reason Lin Che chose them? Was it because they were better than average university students? But could they really create a large-scale game well? That would be ludicrous. They were just some students. Was it sheer dumb luck that Lin Che found some gaming geniuses? She still could not believe it. But with the game there, she knew that the prototype looked rather promising. She could not find anything to nitpick on and only looked suspiciously at the students. She felt a little worried. Lin Che said, "Very good. You did it before the expected deadline. You guys clearly worked hard." Crooked Neck immediately replied, "That's because the big star Lin Che encouraged us, so we did it with gusto. We burned through so many nights you didn't see how many cups of instant noodles were stacked in our room." He continued blabbering but quickly shut up when he saw Chen Lanshan's expression become worse. Chen Lanshan looked at them and wanted to shake her head. It was too absurd. "Miss Lin, although it doesn't look bad from a non-professional point of view, we still need Director Li's approval for us to continue." Lin Che heard this and said, "Of course. It's only right. I'll check first." "Okay." In Li Mingyu's office, Chen Lanshan said, "Miss Lin has good intentions, but she's not a professional and found some university students. Please take a look." Li Mingyu heard this and asked, "Oh, they are downstairs right now?" "Yes, Director Li." "Okay, let's go down and see." Li Mingyu immediately stood up. Chen Lanshan thought with relief that Director Li probably didn't have any thoughts on Lin Che now. Otherwise, given Director Li's character, he would get the woman he desired quickly. He would not leave Lin Che unbothered for so long. They went down. When Li Mingyu entered, Lin Che was still talking to the group about the game. The few young lads looked at the game and at Lin Che as if they were enamored by her. Who could blame them? How often did they come across a beauty like Lin Che? Although they could only look at her, it was enough. It would have been a big deal to be able to just stand beside her. They never thought that they would be working with her now. In 1 month, they had numerous phone calls and meetings. They must have been ecstatic beyond words. Li Mingyu hardened his expression and entered. Chen Lanshan watched from behind with anticipation. Li Mingyu thought to himself, "Hey, I don't even dare to look at her that way and you guys are staring at her like that. Do you want to die?" Lin Che looked at Li Mingyu. "You're finally here. Look. We've made a prototype. Take a good look." Li Mingyu then pulled Lin Che aside and asked, Hey, why are they so young? No wonder you always reject me. It turns out that you like younger guys." Lin Che twisted her arm out of his grip. "Don't talk nonsense. It seems that way. Let me ask you this. Are you as handsome as Gu Jingze? Are you as rich as Gu Jingze? Are you as charming as Gu Jingze? These are the real reasons why I reject you, got it?" "Seriously? How infuriating." Li Mingyu asked, "Can't you save me some face?" "Nope, sorry." Lin Che scoffed, pushed him away, and continued to look at the game. Li Mingyu grunted but turning to see that everyone was still watching him. He quickly turned back and smiled. "How is it?" Chen Lanshan then walked over. "Take a look, Director Li. These are university students. Oh, they are in their junior year. Which school are you from?" "We're from a university." Crooked Neck stood up and replied. Being in the same room as a rich guy like Li Mingyu, he was also much more obedient. Li Mingyu looked at the prototype game on the screen. "This is the prototype." "That's right. I think it's pretty good," Li Mingyu said. Chen Lanshan was stunned. What was Li Mingyu doing here? She chimed in from behind, "Sir, these guys are only juniors. I feel that the 2 billion yuan investment." Li Mingyu did not look at her. Instead, he turned to Lin Che. "What do you think?" Lin Che said, "This prototype was completed in a month, so there is definitely still room for improvement. We already found some problems that we will continue to fix, but this is the prototype anyway. You can see its other aspects." Li Mingyu nodded. "As long as it's your choice. I'll leave it up to you." Lin Che was a little shy. "No, you need to give some input too." "No need. I trust your judgment." "Really, you're trusting me so much. You're making me embarrassed." "There's no need to feel embarrassed. Do whatever you please. I think it's all good." Chen Lanshan was speechless. It was 2 billion yuan and he was going to let Lin Che play around with the money. Did he not want to bet her? Lin Che chuckled and said, "That's great. Don't blame me if you lose money. Not at all, I believe you won't make me lose money. I still have that much trust in you, at least. When have you ever made a loss? I definitely believe in your judgment, your ability, and especially that luck of yours. Get lost. Chapter 1175. The kindergarten was going on a trip. Lin Che said, you'll go bankrupt from bearing all the losses. Li Mingyu said, hee. I'll bear them. If I end up losing too much, I'll just ask for compensation from someone else. Of course, the someone else he was talking about was Gu Jingze. Lin Che said, we're working with each other. Who are you going to ask for money from? HMPH. Forget it. You'll pay until you can't find your underpants. Good gracious. You talk so big. I have so much money. If you can lose it all, that's a kind of skill too. Lin Che wondered how much money he exactly had to be able to speak so arrogantly. However, while the two of them were playing around and joking with each other, they did not notice that the person beside them was still looking at the two of them. For a moment, she merely felt that the way the two of them were behaving was truly alarming. Chen Lanchen was flabbergasted. She had clearly been thinking that Li Mingyu would not allow anyone to mess around once he was here. She did not expect Li Mingyu to indulge Lin Che to this extent. Furthermore, looking at the two of them, it seemed that Li Mingyu was not just acquainted with Lin Che. He did not even mind Lin Che messing around with him like this. And Li Mingyu was still smiling as if he was very happy. It was even more surprising to see because there had been numerous women around Li Mingyu in the past, but not one of them dared to speak to him this way. Every single one of them was respectful towards Li Mingyu. But she did not see any respect on Lin Che's face at all. The two of them seemed like close friends messing around with each other. Li Mingyu did not have a single friend around him. No one had ever seen him being well acquainted with anyone because Li Mingyu's personality always drew some criticism, and he did not like opening up to people. Although he had people to keep him company, most of them were business associates, bad friends, or fair-weather friends. Li Mingyu could not feel comfortable messing around with any of them. What's more, this person was a woman. Chen Lanchen was still feeling surprised when Li Mingyu said, all right. In that case, you guys go ahead. Show me the results when you're done. I'm really looking forward to it. Sure, we'll definitely work round the clock to make it an endeavor to produce it soon. For a moment, Chen Lanchen did not know what to say. She could only look at the two of them and shrug. She thought to herself, all right, do whatever you want. I'll look at the outcome when the time comes. Anyway, the money belonged to the boss and not her. But she nevertheless started to wonder if she had thought wrong. Lin Che did not seem to be in such a relationship with Li Mingyu. They definitely had to take their time with the game. Meanwhile, the production for the second season of Surprise Raiment of Rainbows and Feathers was about to begin. Lin Che got busy with production for that. Thus, she instructed a few people to first slowly modify and test out the game according to their ideas, hoping that the game would be completed sooner. Meanwhile, the kindergarten had organized a trip. Lin Che and Mu Feiren were both preparing the necessary belongings for their children. Mu Feiren said, I heard that they're going to the canyon. Honestly, I'm a little worried. Lin Che said, don't worry. They won't choose a place that's too tough. It's mainly because I can't stop worrying about Union. Lin Che smiled and said, Nianian will be around too. He will definitely look after his younger sister. I sure hope so. In reality, it was indeed slightly worrying that the children were going on a trip. Lin Che was simply comforting Mu Feiren. Any mother would worry about her child no matter what. It seemed that her child would be in danger at any time. Even if he was lying on the bed and sleeping restfully, she would have to go and watch over him. It was as if he would be in danger as long as he wasn't right under her nose. They prepared some food and drinks for their children and got their school bags ready. Then, they sent their children on their way. The school bus parked outside the kindergarten. Lin Che walked over and said, Nianian, take good care of Union. Gu Xinian said, yes. And Li Mo, too. Gu Xinian looked at the child shrink into himself at the back, not saying a word. She could tell that the two of them did not seem to be on good terms. Lin Che pulled Nianian towards her and asked, what's wrong? Isn't Li Mo your classmate? Why does it seem like you're not on very good terms with him? Gu Jingze said, I don't like girls. Lin Che was rendered speechless. He's a boy. But I think he's even weaker than girls. Lin Che said, maybe it's because you're not familiar with him. When you don't understand a person, don't come to presumptuous conclusions about that person. Gu Jingze curled his lip despite this. Lin Che said, all right. You make your own friends. I won't interfere. Well then, I feel weird this time. Take good care of Union. Don't worry. Lin Che patted his little backpack and guided him onto the bus. As she watched the line of people leave, Lin Che felt vaguely unhappy inside. She was undoubtedly worried. She was probably going to sleep badly for the next 2 days. But she had to let her child go eventually. She had to let him experience the world. Whether it was good or bad, he would make his own judgments. Lin Che would not stop him from going for a school trip just because she was worried. The canyon was less than 3 hours away from B City. They had brought tents with them and would camp there for the night before returning the next day. All the children were going camping for the first time. They were extremely excited. But the teachers were so nervous that they did not dare to sleep. Gu Jingze stayed with Union the whole time. Union asked, Nianian, can I sleep together with you tonight? Gu Jingze said, no. Why not? Because you're a girl. Girls have to sleep with girls. Really? But Uncle Mo always coaxes me to sleep at home. That's your father. Gu Jingze said, all right. I'll tell you a bedtime story later, okay? Great, great. Union sat there obediently. The people around them seemed unable to join in their conversation. They sat there and watched the two of them. Union was actually quite popular in the kindergarten, because she looked adorable, like a little princess. She was always dressed neatly and her face was plump. The teachers liked her and the children, following suit, also liked her. But Union only hung out with Gu Jingze. She never liked playing with other people. Furthermore, Gu Jingze was so terrifying. When he was with Union, no one dared to disturb him. The little Li Mo was sitting all the way inside at the moment. When Union saw Li Mo sitting alone over there, as if feeling extremely lonely, she picked up a bag of snacks and walked towards him. Hey, this is for you to eat. Li Mo raised his head to look at Union. Union said, this is so delicious. My mother packed a lot of it. Li Mo stretched out his hand in an attempt to take it. Gu Jingze walked over and quickly yanked Union towards him. Don't run off on your own. After being pulled away, Union looked at Gu Jingze. Brother Nianian. Li Mo raised his head to look at Gu Jingze, not saying a word. But he slowly lowered his gaze. Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes at Li Mo. Then, he dragged Union back to their original seats. Union asked strangely, Brother Nianian, why can't we play with him? My mother said that Li Mo's father is Auntie Lin Che's friend. Gu Jingze said, you're not allowed to because I say so. Chapter 1176 Jump down together with me. Union curled her lip in slight unhappiness. But she had always followed Gu Jingze's words to a T, so she could only nod her head. As she looked at Li Mo, she felt that he was a little pitiful. He sat there the whole time without a single friend. The way he looked. Before the night was halfway through, the teachers took the children to play games together. However, just when they had started playing, all of a sudden, it felt as if there were fewer people on the grass field. Teacher, some people came and took a few kids away. One of the students raised his hand and said. What, took them away? When did that happen? Earlier, when we came here. The teacher was immediately stunned. She quickly mobilized all the teachers to search for the kids. Immediately, everyone on the grass field was in complete chaos. The teacher looked around and saw that the important students were still around. In that case, why had those other students been taken away? At this exact moment, a large car suddenly rushed in. Everyone, move aside, one of the teachers shouted with all her might when she saw it. All the students around her ran away in a frenzy. The children also scattered in all directions immediately. Just then, Union had still been in shock when she suddenly sensed a hand grab her. She looked up only to see a dark and well-built man currently lifting her up forcefully. "Ah, brother Nianian," she shouted loudly. However, just then, there was a bang. It was a gunshot. The brawny man immediately collapsed onto the ground. Immediately after, Union was tossed onto the ground. She looked up only to see Nianian standing behind her. There was still a trail of smoke coming out of the barrel of the gun in his hand. She clutched her chest and even momentarily wanted to turn around to take a look. However, Gu Jingze quickly pulled her to her feet. "Don't look, come with me." Union ran out after him with a stagger. Gu Jingze pulled her with him and walked out. Behind them, someone had already noticed him. "In front, quick, look, he's the one holding a gun." Union said in shock, "Brother Nianian, what do I do?" The expression on Gu Jingze's face was calm. He did not even turn his head and his footsteps were not at all hurried. He merely pulled her and said quickly, "Don't turn around. Follow me." Union's expression was extremely confused. She simply followed him and ran. However, she suddenly saw that they had reached a dead end. The ravine was in front. It seemed that they would go into a bottomless abyss if they continued walking. Union shouted, "Brother Nianian, what do we do?" Gu Jingze turned his head to look, only to see that those people had already rushed over. They looked straight at Gu Jingze and chuckled. "Little guy, you're impressive. You know how to use a gun at such a young age. But you have nowhere to go now. Be good and come back with us. We have plenty of ice cream and chocolates at home for you guys to eat." They looked at Gu Jingze and Union. Union tugged at Gu Jingze's arm in fear. In a moment, they had already been pushed to the edge of the cliff. Gu Jingze and Union held on to each other tightly. They watched the men close in on the two of them. Right now, there was another man whose arm was already outstretched towards them. He wanted to grab Gu Jingze directly. However, at this moment, out of the blue, someone rushed towards them from behind. "Ah!" a child was shouting in his thin voice while running over. He immediately hugged the man's leg and threw himself onto the ground, not allowing him to move forward. Gu Jingze looked down. The person who had pounced on him was Lin Che. The tall man could not move towards them. But nevertheless, Gu Jingze and Union had nowhere to run. Gu Jingze glanced at the precipice behind them before raising his head to look at Lin Che in front of him. The man kicked Lin Che and threw him aside directly without waiting for him to move. Gu Jingze clenched his teeth and quickly pulled Union to him. "Jump. Ah, brother Nianian, no. Follow me and jump down. You'll be fine, trust me." "But..." Gu Jingze hugged Union. "Hold on to my waist." Then, he felt Union hug his waist obediently. He immediately walked to the edge of the cliff and jumped off. "Ah!" Union's scream reverberated. There was no way they could have imagined that Gu Jingze would actually jump down. Why did this child take things so hard? They could not believe that he had simply jumped down because he did not want to get caught. The tall man looked at Lin Che on the ground. He tossed him off the cliff with them without hesitation. "Ah!" Lin Che shouted before rolling down the cliff as well. They looked at each other, still confused. Who was that? He looked slightly familiar too. I heard that Li Mingyu's child was also sent here. Could that child be his? Now that you've said it, I think it might be. Then what do we do? Li Mingyu is a lunatic through and through. If we kill his child, won't he come after us when the time comes? Enough. Now that the Gu family's child has jumped down, we definitely have to run. If Gu Jingze gets his hands on us, he'll make life a living hell for us. We'll die if one person jumps off anyway. We'll also die if two people jump off. Alright, let's go." They glanced down below in pity. It was so deep. They seemed to be pretty good children. It was a waste. Down below. Gu Jingze looked at Union and continued to hug her while consoling her. "Alright, Union, don't cry, don't cry. Aren't we fine now?" Union had genuinely been scared out of her wits when they had jumped down earlier. She sincerely thought that she was going to fall to her death. However, while they were in midair, Gu Jingze suddenly took some unknown object out of his pocket. It hung directly on a branch after he shot it. Thus, the two of them hung down just like that. They swayed for a bit before falling onto the ground. Union looked up at Gu Jingze. Brother Nianian, what's that? Gu Jingze said, it's just a little gadget. Did your mother give it to you? Gu Jingze thought that his mother would probably have beat him to death a long time ago if she knew about this. He had gotten this from Black Hawk. Gu Jingze said, it's all thanks to your Uncle Mo. Huh. Gu Jingze had gone through many difficulties to steal this. But if his uncle found out now that he had used this to save his daughter's life, he probably wouldn't be too angry. At last, Union felt significantly better. The two of them walked out. While walking, Union asked, how do we go out now? Wait for a bit, they will probably come down and search the area for our bodies. If they can't find our bodies, they'll search more carefully for us. We need to leave this place first. But we have to find a good route for us to leave. Otherwise, we'll exhaust all our stamina and they'll catch up with us in no time. Oh, alright then. Hey, brother Nianian, look in front. Gu Jingze took a look only to see a child currently hanging on the fork of a tree and gasping for breath. Li Mo. Good gracious, it's Li Mo. Quick, get him down. The two of them used a lot of strength to get Li Mo down. They felt much more relieved upon seeing that Li Mo was still breathing. Come on, we'll look for a place to rest first. While speaking, Gu Jingze and Union dragged Li Mo in tow. Very soon after, they found a small cave. It did not look that dangerous, so they temporarily stopped here for a rest. Chapter 1177 How I Wish I Had a Daughter Like Her. Elsewhere. In the middle of the night, Lin Che's phone rang out of the blue. In reality, she had not slept soundly at all. Because she felt vaguely uneasy, she did not feel like sleeping. Also, the baby kept waking up, interrupting her sleep even more. When she answered the phone, she heard the person on the other line scream, something happened with the kindergarten. Lin Che's heart immediately sank all the way to the bottom. Gu Jingze. Quick, wake up, something happened to Nianian. After she woke Gu Jingze up, he was slightly gloomy for a moment. He frowned while looking at Lin Che's anxious expression. The only thought on his mind was, what were these people doing? How could they think of informing Lin Che first that something had happened? Of course, he felt terrible as well now that they had suddenly sparked such immense fear in Lin Che. It was only after going out and asking around that he found out. Someone had taken the opportunity to kidnap the children during their outdoor trip. Hearing this, Lin Che was even more on tenterhooks. She sat there and waited for news. She hoped that news would come, but at the same time, she hoped that it would not. She feared that the arriving news would be something that she wouldn't want to hear. If so, she would rather receive no news. However, what was to come was bound to come. Soon after, someone came over to inform the two of them. Sir, madam, there has still been no news of little young master. Lin Che immediately grabbed the person who had come. What do you mean there is no news? Gu Jingze held Lin Che's shoulders. Don't be anxious. Listen to him speak slowly. Lin Che hastily asked, so, what's the situation now? Madam, little young master jumped off the cliff. He brought Miss Union with him. What? Lin Che was really about to go mad. The little young master of the Li family probably jumped down together with them too. Li Mo. Lin Che started shaking once again. But madam, they've already gone down to search for them. They didn't find a single corpse, nor were there any signs of them. Lin Che's brow even trembled when she heard the word corpse. Beside her, Gu Jingze scowled and gestured for him to take his leave. Why exactly did these people speak this way? He placed his hands on Lin Che's shoulders. All right. If they didn't find corpses, it means that Nianian was fine after jumping down. But Nianian is definitely not someone who would easily jump off. He's not that stupid. What's more, he even brought Union along. Lin Che raised her head. You mean he'll be fine? Of course. Just then, Mu Feiren had already rushed here in disarray. Black Hawk was here together with her. Mu Feiren was shaking when she saw Lin Che. Her body looked weak too. How could this have happened? Black Hawk also asked, what was Nianian doing? Gu Jingze's voice remained quite calm. He jumped off the cliff to escape his pursuers. Black Hawk frowned upon hearing this. Then, he said, oh, he recently stole from me a portable gadget that shoots and latches onto the wall. Lin Che asked, what's that? Gu Jingze said, it's something that can attach to the wall, is able to carry the weight of 10 adults. Huh. Black Hawk said, he may have jumped off the cliff because he had this with him. But he hasn't used it often. Can he use it properly? Gu Jingze said, since he chose to jump down, it means he was confident. It's fine. Lin Che drew in a deep breath. She sat there, dispirited. Was it true? Would Nianian be fine? But how could Nianian be so bold? He even dared to jump down, bringing Union with him. Black Hawk said, this brat in the future, I really can't let him enter my armory as he pleases. I can't believe he even stole something. After stealing it, he was even so audacious as to use it. I didn't expect it. Someone came to tell me just this morning that it was missing. It's a newly invented gadget worth a few million. They don't even sell it outside, you know. Gu Jingze said, I told you from the beginning to be wary of him. Because he's your son, a crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. Just then, he saw Li Mingyu walk in from outside too. What the hell is going on? What did they say happened to my child? Your child? Lin Che stood up at this moment and looked at Li Mingyu. We still don't know. They jumped off the cliff together, but not a single body was found. We think they're probably still alive. It's just that we haven't found them yet. Hearing this, Li Mingyu's expression loosened considerably. He remained silent for a moment before slamming the table. Tick, who's sick of living? How dare they touch my son? Lin Che said, they may have been targeting Nianian. But I don't know why they jumped off together. When Li Mingyu heard this, he looked at Gu Jingze and said, good gracious. I told you not to be too arrogant a long time ago. Look what's happened now. Gu Jingze scoffed. In that case, don't move your company to C Nation. Who's the one rushing to come here and join in? Enough. You guys shouldn't quarrel. Shouldn't looking for the children be the most important priority now? Black Hawk said from the side. Mu Feiren hastily added, so, what should we do now? Gu Jingze said, we're looking for them and those people are probably looking for them too. I'll get my men to search for them. Black Hawk said, in that case, I'll instruct my men to go and check who's still looking for them. If they see people looking for the children, they'll kill them off, so they don't find the children first. Li Mingyu asked, what do I do then? Gu Jingze pulled Lin Che along while walking out. He brushed past Li Mingyu and said nonchalantly, you can just stay away from us. Hey, my son is missing. How can you tell me to stay away when he's missing because of you? No way. I must go and search for him. I'm going to find out who dared to go after my son. Didn't they know who that was? How dare they lay a hand on my son? Are they really looking for death? If I find them, I'll definitely chop them up into pieces. Seeing the situation, Mu Feiren was still a little worried. Beside her, Black Hawk had his arm around her shoulder. All right, she'll be fine with Nianian. Mu Feiren said, Nianian used to be a very sensible child. Why has he become so mischievous now? Black Hawk said, he was too suppressed in America, so he found release when he came here and had everything, but this child is intelligent enough. Although he's a little showy and too arrogant as well, he's someone who will definitely achieve great things in the future. If Union is with him, she will probably return safely. Mu Feiren looked up at him. He looked down and said, I absolutely won't allow Union to be hurt either. Don't worry. Mu Feiren looked at him and nodded. Why are you so good to Union? Black Hawk smiled faintly and said, because I like Union. But ultimately, Union isn't related to you. You like her so much. Black Hawk said, how do you know we're not related? Maybe we'll be related in the future. Mu Feiren was blushing. He said, besides, Union is a good kid. She relies on me so much too. Mu Feiren said, it's all because you treat her too well. I don't know how to tell her in the future, either. If she's too reliant on you and it affects you. Chapter 1178 Brother Nianian is our big brother. Don't spout nonsense. How could it affect me? I like to be relied on like this. I like being affected like this. He frowned and said, if you don't allow her to look for me, I'll feel anxious. Mu Feiren let out a sputtering laugh. You seriously? He mumbled in frustration, you have no idea how much I wish I had a daughter like her. She's obedient and sensible. If she clings to me all the time, I can spoil her rotten and stop anyone from hurting her. Mu Feiren was even more shocked. She raised her head and looked at him. What did he mean by this? Just then, Li Mingyu, who was still beside them, simply sneered. Hey, if you want a daughter, there happens to be a cheap daughter here. You guys can just get together. You guys are so troublesome. Mu Feiren looked at the man behind her. Black Hawk's expression was sour. He gave the meddlesome man behind him the side eye. Li Mingyu asked, why? Why, I just helped you guys address the elephant in the room. Quick, quick, get together. Why must you beat about the bush like this? Can't you just say that you want Union to be your daughter? Mu Feiren immediately stood up in a panic. However, in her moment of anxiety, she hit Black Hawk's face directly. Mu Feiren's face hurt from colliding into him. Black Hawk rubbed his face. Then, he turned around with his lips pursed and spat at Li Mingyu through clenched teeth. Get lost. Li Mingyu mumbled, I can't be bothered to stay here. I genuinely feel so irritated since I'm an unwanted third party. I want to just quickly strip you guys naked and put you together. This Li Mingyu. Why had Lin Che become friends with such a person? Mu Feiren was shy and embarrassed. She did not dare to look at Black Hawk again. However, Black Hawk knew that Li Mingyu's personality was just that foul and ignored him. Mu Feiren said, well, Black Hawk looked at her. What Li Mingyu said. I know it's just a joke. I understand. You can give it some thought. Mu Feiren immediately choked. What? What did Black Hawk say? Black Hawk said bluntly, Union needs a father and I want a daughter too. You can think about it. If I'm by Union's side, she will be much safer of course, more importantly you need a man too. Before Mu Feiren could finish speaking, Black Hawk continued, I'll give you a day to consider it. If you meet me when I visit you tomorrow, I'll take it that you've agreed. Alright, I'll go out first and see what exactly Gu Jingze is doing. The most important thing first and foremost is to find the 3 children first. Black Hawk left once he was done speaking. Hey, how could he be so unreasonable? Mu Feiren had already been feeling anxious. Right now, she was even more at a loss. She began to feel more and more confused. She hoped that Union was fine, hoped that they would be able to find the 3 innocent children. She also hoped. Oh no, but what was she going to do tomorrow? Inside the cave. Union was feeding Li Mo water using a leaf, just like she had seen on television. Beside them, Gu Jingze looked at Li Mo. He stared straight at him without speaking. Union asked, Brother Nianian, he won't die, right? Gu Jingze said, I don't know. Union was frightened. Then, what should we do? Gu Jingze said, if we make it through tonight, there will probably be people coming here to save us. Really? Why? If my father, Uncle Black Hawk, and Li Mo's father join hands, we'll be fine. Union asked, will Uncle Mo lend a hand too? Of course. Then, is Uncle Mo very powerful? Of course. Union said, hey, I think Li Mo's awake. After regaining consciousness, Li Mo looked at Gu Jingze. You. Gu Jingze asked, why did you jump down? Li Mo was filthy all over. He crawled up and sat there. I was kicked off the cliff. I didn't want to fall off either. Really? Gu Jingze looked at his weak manner with disdain. Enough. I wasn't criticizing you either. Why are you so anxious to explain yourself? Li Mo stopped talking again. Gu Jingze said, get up and check for injuries. He moved his hand. It doesn't hurt. He said, in that case, get up. Let's go. Li Mo rushed to catch up. I'm sorry. I don't think you've done anything to be sorry about, Gu Jingze said. Li Mo bit his lip and said to him, they said that my mother did something bad to your mother before. She's a lunatic now and I don't know her at all. But I still feel apologetic towards you. Gu Jingze stopped in his tracks and looked at him. He weakly lowered his head. Although they were all young children, they were still very thoughtful. This was especially true for Li Mo, who had never received affection. He was exceptionally sensitive and was most astute in detecting hatred in other people too. Gu Jingze sighed and continued walking straight ahead. Forget it. It wasn't your fault, either. Don't be so silly in the future. You wanted to latch onto his leg to save us, but you're so small. It was impossible for you to help us. To them, killing you would have been as easy as killing an ant. Li Mo looked down. I just didn't want to see them kill you guys. Gu Jingze turned back and took out a small pistol. Lin Che definitely did not know that he had put a lot of equipment in his bag before going out. She thought that it was filled with food, but he had replaced everything inside a long time ago. It was fortunate that he had a habit of bringing these things with him. Otherwise, they would have been dead meat today. He had been thinking that the shadow guards could not keep following him around while he was out. If there was any danger, he could save himself. He even had a small pistol inside. He handed it to Li Mo and said, "This is a pistol." Ah, Li Mo had seen his father use it before, but there was no way he dared to touch it. He had only seen on television that this could be used to kill people. How could he dare to use it? Gu Jingze said, if you had this in hand earlier, you wouldn't have fallen off. You would have been able to escape on your own. Hold it, click the safety catch before pulling the trigger, and just shoot the person you want to shoot. But you would have been shot first while you were hesitating. Understand? Li Mo looked at the pistol before looking at Gu Jingze. He nodded silently. Gu Jingze said, let's go then. Behind him, Li Mo asked, what about you? What will you do now that you've given it to me? Gu Jingze fiddled with the knife in his hands. I still have this with me. Li Mo looked at the pistol. Why don't you use this then? Isn't this safer? Gu Jingze said, you blockhead. I gave it to you because it's easier to use. If I gave you the knife, you probably wouldn't even be able to find the enemy's vein. Forget it. Li Mo looked down at the pistol. Warmth spread throughout his chest. Thank you, Gu Jingze. Union said, call him Brother Nianian too like I do. Nian. Don't, just call me Gu Jingze. I'll die from fear if I hear a man call me Brother Nianian. Okay. Li Mo was very happy. It seemed that he had finally made a friend. Chapter 1179. Stop arguing, alright. Outside. As expected, the disappearance of the three children mobilized these people to search for them. Black Hawk dispatched his men to inquire at the black market. Li Mingyu was looking for people to conduct an investigation. Gu Jingze gave chase. In no time, the news had spread everywhere. No one knew why the three of them had joined hands out of the blue. In particular, Li Mingyu and Gu Jingze had clearly been arch-enemies in the past. Why were they so close to each other now? They seemed to be stuck in the same place and engaged in some kind of discussion all day. However, Li Mingyu was indeed a little bothersome. In reality, Lin Che felt even more annoyed with him around. Li Mingyu walked in and asked, where is Gu Jingze? Lin Che, didn't he go and give chase? Why isn't there any news yet? Lin Che said, I would like to know too. Li Mingyu clicked his tongue twice. Looks like the Gu family's shadow guards can't make the cut either. How many hours has it been? But there is still no news. Lin Che glared at him. Can you stop causing more trouble? How am I causing more trouble? My child is down there too. I'm just anxious. In that case, go and be anxious on your own. Don't come here and irritate me. Hey, shouldn't we be helping each other out right now? Even if I'm not here, I won't be able to sleep at home either. Or I could get someone to give you a concussion right now. Then you'll fall asleep. My child has gone missing and you're still so harsh on me. Get lost, get lost, get lost. I can't tell that you're anxious at all, Lin Che reprimanded him directly. Li Mingyu said, I'm like this when I get anxious. Good lord, it's all Gu Jingze's fault. Aren't the Gu family's shadow guards supposed to be the best in the world? They're supposed to be able to find anyone under the sun. But look at what happened now. Lin Che rolled her eyes again and said bluntly, Dongzi, if this person says another word, just throw him out. Yes, miss, Dongzi said. Li Mingyu quickly shut his mouth. Then, he saw Black Hawk walk inside while asking, what's the situation now? Still no news from Gu Jingze. Lin Che said, not yet. He's not back yet. Black Hawk asked, what the hell is going on? No news at all. Li Mingyu said, that's exactly what I was saying. I said that Gu Jingze couldn't do it. She didn't believe me and even told me to shut up. Black Hawk said, that's enough. If someone like him can't find them, there must be a reason too. Otherwise, you go and look for them. Hey, if my men went looking for them, they would have found them a long time ago. If it was up to me, why keep it under wraps? Just turn the entire Sea Nation upside down. Hehe, if the entire mafia knows that Gu Jingze's eldest son has gone missing, don't you think countless people will be itching to kidnap him and extort a sum of money from Gu Jingze? Black Hawk asked. In response, Li Mingyu said, look what we have here. Has this mafia boss become outdated? One word from you and no one will dare to touch them. Or are you really incapable of that now? I haven't been a mafia boss for many years, Black Hawk said. Li Mingyu laughed out loud. Dear me, what happened to that all-powerful big boss Black Hawk of the past? What happened to the founder of that criminal gang that struck terror in people? To the callous person who wanted to skin people alive? I can't believe you can't even settle a few bandits now. Black Hawk said, if you can, you do it. You're all talk and no action. Beside them, Lin Che held her forehead. She genuinely felt that she had had enough of these people. Enough. Stop talking, Lin Che said in frustration. Only then did the two of them look at Lin Che and stop talking. These two people caused such a ruckus when they were together. The main thing was that of the two of them, one was an all-powerful mafia boss while the other was a reputable president of a company. But they were actually here quarreling like children. If outsiders saw them, they would definitely find it incomparably strange. What were these two people doing? Just then, someone else came in as well. Gu Jingze had returned. He looked at the two of them and asked, why are you guys still here? Hey, you're finally back. How's the situation? Gu Jingze, where's Union? The two of them rushed up to him. Seeing the situation, Lin Che was even more surprised. She thought of the last time the three of them had been together. In her eyes, Li Mingyu was still a heinous scoundrel and Black Hawk was a demon who killed people without blinking. Now, the three of them had gathered together again because their children had all gone missing. This world was truly amazing. Lin Che got up and said, all right. Gu Jingze just came back. Can you guys keep quiet for a while? Gu Jingze said, we've already some signs. They're probably not dead. They're walking out, but Nianian knows how to hide, so we definitely won't be able to find him for the time being. Nianian knows how to hide. They're not dead, right? That's fine, Li Mingyu said. Lin Che said, so, now. Gu Jingze said, Nianian will probably leave something behind for us. Let's wait a bit more for him. Li Mingyu asked, hey, how old is he? Do you think he's some prodigy? How could he even know this? Gu Jingze said calmly, these are all things that the Gu family's shadow guards must prepare. He learned from the shadow guards, so he would have definitely learned a lot. Lin Che sat there. She would not stop worrying until she saw Nianian. Black Hawk also mulled over it before saying calmly, I'll let Farron know first. It was 5 in the morning. He parked his car outside the entrance to Mu Farron's house. He did not know how much time had passed before he saw Mu Farron run out with a shawl around her. She opened the car door, looked at Black Hawk and asked, is there any news of Union? Black Hawk nodded. While looking at her, he repeated what Gu Jingze had said. Similarly, Mu Farron still felt anxious too. But she also trusted that Gu Jingze would not lie to her. I hope the children are really fine. Black Hawk said, Nianian is indeed much more capable than the ordinary adult. Don't worry, If Gu Jingze says everything will be fine, then everything will be fine. Mu Feiren nodded. But Black Hawk was still looking at her. She looked up and asked, "Is anything the matter with you?" Black Hawk moved closer to her without hesitation. His elegant and magnificent face immediately leaned in close. Mu Feiren blinked her large eyes blankly. Black Hawk said, "You came out to meet me." Mu Feiren froze. Of course, she understood what he meant. She looked down and said, "You asked me to come out, so of course I had to. That's not what I meant." But Black Hawk nevertheless put his arms around her shoulders. "But I told you yesterday that you would be tacitly agreeing if you came out. No matter what you say now, I'll take it that you've already agreed." How could he do that? Mu Feiren said, Let's wait for Union to return before we talk about this." The corners of Black Hawk's lips turned up. "Sure, I'll go and pick Union up now. I'll definitely find Union by tomorrow. Don't worry." He looked so certain, as if he was saying, "I'll see what other excuses you can come up with tomorrow." The way he was behaving really made Mu Feiren speechless again. She could only look down and mumble, "All right, in that case, we'll talk about it tomorrow." But judging by her expression, it seemed that she had already agreed. How could she not fall for him? She was destined to be unable to escape the moment she met a man like Black Hawk. Chapter 1180. This little imp was quite good. Gu Jingze left the secret signal along the way but figured that they would not find him so quickly. He walked a long time and was starting to feel tired. Union also said that she was tired. He looked up and suddenly sensed someone in front. "What's wrong, Brother Nianian?" Union looked up and asked. "Suh." Gu Jingze stopped and made her stop moving too. He looked attentively in front, staring in that direction. His feet slowly moved forward as he inched closer and closer. Union was still confused and did not know what was happening ahead. She looked through the grass and did not feel that anything was amiss. Just then, suddenly, someone jumped out through the grass. Meanwhile, Gu Jingze instantly pulled her backward and turned to run. However, they were already surrounded. Trying to run, you're as good as caught. Frightened, Union hugged Gu Jingze again. Gu Jingze looked at them. "You guys just want to kidnap us, right? We're more useful when we are alive, right?" The few men looked at one another. Hey, the person just now said that this kid was a prodigy, but they did not believe it. Looking at him now, they really thought that he was indeed a genius. "Yes, so be good and come with us. We'll give you plenty to eat and drink." "Fine, let's go." Gu Jingze spoke and held Union's hand. He looked at Li Wei beside him and prepared to walk with the adults. Seeing as he stopped resisting, the man rubbed his beard. "Yes, not bad, not bad. You guys are definitely wise." But that wasn't right. Why did he say that? This was clearly a kid, and even if he still wanted to run away, they could have grabbed him with one hand. However, this kid simply gave off an indescribable aura. Looking at him, one could not help but be on their toes. It was as if this kid looked like a kitten, but could turn into a little tiger any time to bite them. The group took the three children and walked out. Gu Jingze only looked at Li Wei. Li Wei also bit his lip and looked at him. The men looked out cautiously and complained as they walked, "Seriously, Black Eagle's men almost had us." How did Black Eagle get involved? Who knows? Thankfully, I've been on that side, so I know their tactics. Seriously, this business is not easy to do. Who knew that we could offend so many people? Exactly. We only wanted one person and now we ended up with three. We don't even know who this little girl belongs to. Why do they care so much? Isn't it good that they care? Having her in our hands is like having another bargaining chip. But, it's also troublesome. Just as they were lamenting, Gu Jingze suddenly shouted, "Oh no! There's a snake!" "What? A snake?" When the men were panicking, they felt someone jump up and climb onto one of the taller guys. Upon closer look, it was Gu Jingze. When he shouted that there was a snake, he jumped onto the man's body. Before anybody could react or realize what was going on, there was a cold flash and the man's neck became hot. Fresh blood already spurted out. Ah! The man collapsed to the ground in disbelief and then he died. A kid who had nothing on him actually killed him in an instant. The others were stunned and then reacted. They saw a dagger hanging from the corner of Gu Xinian's mouth. He swiftly jumped down from the man's body, landing on one knee with his hands in front. His sharp eyes seemed to be filled with ice, like a predator fixed on his prey. In a flash, he jumped up again and aimed for the neck of another man in front of him. The man still wanted to fight back. Gu Xinian called out to Li Wei, "Shoot!" Li Wei held the gun and locked eyes on his target. Upon command, he quickly raised his arms. Not daring to say anything, he immediately pulled the trigger. Bang! He missed, but the man still instinctively cowered. Taking advantage of the misfire, Gu Xinian immediately aimed his dagger at the man's throat. 2 people died consecutively. The others quickly recovered and aimed to attack him. But at this moment, Li Wei finally found the feel of the gun and started shooting at the men. The men tried to hide. Gu Xinian used a dagger in front while Li Wei used a gun from behind. The two of them coordinated well. They could only feel shocked. What exactly did they get themselves into today? These kids actually managed to kill most of them. Usually, they wouldn't be defeated so easily. But this was indeed too shocking. But they were only shocked for a minute. After that, they quickly began to retaliate. However, it was already pointless at this stage. Just as they were about to surround Gu Xinian, behind them, a horde of people suddenly charged through the grass with weapons. They aimed their guns at the men and fired. The remaining 7 men started collapsing on the ground one by one. The men who appeared with guns were clad in camouflage outfits. They looked completely prepared and only had a blue logo on their heads to remind others that these people were the Gu family's guards. Gu Jingze's men were here. Gu Xinian was still kneeling on the ground. The intense movements just now left him covered in sweat and dirt. The men saw him and rushed to him. "Young master." Gu Xinian had indeed already used all of his energy. Catching his breath, he slowly stood up. Behind him, Li Wei was still holding the gun in his hands and looking at Gu Xinian. He was in a daze as if he had just been in a dream. He looked at Gu Xinian admiringly. "Gu Xinian, you are amazing." Gu Xinian turned around and said, "You're smart enough to catch up." Smart. Gu Xinian was praising him for being smart. Li Wei smiled. "Not at all, not at all." Just then, Li Mingyu ran in from outside. "Is it them? Have you found them?" Li Mingyu immediately saw that his son was indeed in the middle. He was beaming at Gu Xinian and he even held a gun in his hand. When did his son get a gun? Shocked, he asked, "Li Wei, where did you get that gun from?" Li Wei saw his father and quickly hid the gun behind his back. He looked down and mumbled, "I." But Li Mingyu grinned and looked at Gu Xinian at the side as if he already understood something. It seemed like it was indeed wise to throw this child here. "Oh my, not bad, not bad. You, little guy, can handle a gun now. You do indeed learn fast by hanging out with brother Nianian. Come here, kid, let me take a look at you." Li Mingyu chuckled as he picked up Li Wei in his arms.